Hi, I'm Rebecca Z, artist, Rebecca Zadibble from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I'm here dreaming of flowers. I have spring on the brain, pollen in my sinuses, and spring on the brain. And you know, the flowers are just beginning to pop, and spring is just around the corner. So it's got me thinking about flowers and these beautiful apricot roses over here. Wait, over there. There we go. The apricot roses just were calling out to be painted today, and I thought, in light of the fact that I'm really anticipating my Fancy Florals class coming up, I wanted to just take a moment and do just a quick free floral, just fun free floral that will be maybe some inspiration for you today. So I'm going to show you my tabletop and maybe give you a glimpse into what lessons with me might look like. So here we are. I'm going to move this out of the way. And when I want to just get the gist of a subject, more often than not, a contour drawing is the best way to go. Our silhouettes or the contours of things often tell us the most about any subject. So as I begin drawing, I'm really thinking about the contours, thinking about placing my flowers in good places on the page, areas that will lend themselves to becoming more focal areas. I'm going to try to create a little bit of a cruciform shape with these flowers. I'm going to be a little off center with this central flower, trying not to be dead in the middle. And I'll add a little bud up above to the left. I'm basically just trying to find the contour shapes that I'm seeing within the flower. And down below, I'll add yet another flower. It's kind of a wonky flower, this one that'll be down to the right. There are guard petals coming off this bud, and those guard petals are a real favorite thing of mine to try to portray, because I think they're really a cool shape that can sort of differ from the other leaf shapes. So now I'm going to begin painting, and I'm going to start with my low Cornell brush. It's a round brush, size 14, and some yellow. I'm kind of dancing the yellow around the top of the crown of this bud. I like to start sort of a little out of the way into a corner of the painting sometimes, just to kind of get myself warmed up. And I'm painting quite wet because I want some spontaneous combustion on the surface. This is a little bit of a vermilion orange that I'm introducing here. It's a Schminky Horridum color. And I'm trying to capture the second bud in from the right, trying to get a sense of the flavor of how the light is hitting that flower, and just letting the colors mix as spontaneously as I can. This is supposed to be a fun and free kind of approach to floral painting. And so with that in mind, I'm just trying to do as much as I can of my mixing on the paper, looking at my reference, and just letting those colors mix and mingle on the paper. It's a little bit of dabbing to kind of lift up the extra water that I feel like is happening, and lifting with my brush, using it as a sponge, doing some edge softening, trying to allow for some hard edges, some soft edges. And now I'm trying to find some of the shadows that I'm seeing on the interior of the flower. Dotting that pretty rich color in. The secret to working in a wet area is to keep your brush from being too overly saturated. I keep a paper towel in my left hand, and a lot of times when you see me pull that brush back, I am actually touching that brush on my paper towel for moisture control. This is, there was a little bit of a flat brush that I brought in there to do a little bit of lifting as well. And this is often a technique I use where I'll have two brushes in my hand at one time, one for applying paint and one for lifting. And so I kind of add a little, remove a little, add a little, remove a little, and it kind of allows me to build to the correct color and value that I need to without getting too overly saturated, and yet still having a lot of spontaneous, enough moisture for spontaneous water and pigment to create those beautiful color mixes that happen when we're just mixing our colors on the page. Always love to do that as much as I can. This flat brush that I'm using is a nice brush. I think it's basically the beauty of it is that it's a synthetic brush, and it's got a pretty snappy edge, and that snappy edge allows it to lift and be pretty effective. This particular one is an Escoda brush, and it's I guess it's a 3/4 inch. So now I'm moving into the guard petals. I'd like to begin with yellow, as I often do for my greens. This is New Gamboge yellow, and now I'm going to bring a little bit of Antwerp blue, just a little bit, and I'm going to try to let as much of it mix and mingle on its own, trying not to overwork it, trying not to get in there and mess around with it too much. Underneath the rose flower are often these sort of protrusions from the stem, and I'm kind of trying to capture it there with the Antwerp blue, and I'm going to bring that down and into the stem with some water and some yellow pigment, and just let gravity kind of pull that pigment down to create a stem. Now I'm going to move into the bud, starting with the yellow, and going to get that yellow in there and do so loosely, trying to honor some of the contours that I see. Sometimes when I lay my brush down, I like to do so along the contours as if I'm going over the form with my brush. I've added just a little bit of orange here, and again, trying to let as much of the color mixing happen just naturally there on the paper. Pretty much pure colors in my brush, and the mixed colors tend to come, for the most part, from the mixing that happens on the paper in the wet puddle. I'm leaving little skips of white here and there, and these are the guard petals again, beginning with the yellow, as is kind of my favorite way to do things. And then that is Antwerp blue that I'm adding into the mix. Though this particular lesson is not part of my Fancy Florals class, I will be sharing the remainder of the lesson on a future YouTube video. So that's just a quick little teaser for the Fancy Florals class. It's those sorts of tips and tricks that I like to share, how I hold my brushes, the colors that I use, all of those things. Nothing is a secret. And one of the wonderful things that I'm really excited to be able to offer my students is virtual critique. And you know, critique is one of those words that we kind of cringe at sometimes, but honestly, it's the arm of teaching that is often lacking when you do online courses. You know, when you're in a classroom, you have a teacher there who is looking over your shoulder and helping you and saying, you know, this really would help the painting. And it really is, I really feel like our structure that we have arrived at is really allowing me to give that kind of feedback to my virtual students one-on-one. We've been doing so by sharing on our Facebook group, and it's been a great thing because everyone can benefit from each of the critiques. So if you're at all feeling like you could use a little bit of hand-holding, and if you feel like you'd like to try some lessons with a teacher able to come back and encourage you, but also to show you perhaps like things that might be of help to you, that's a really strong component of this upcoming course. The other thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be checking in weekly for some accountability, because I know when I take online courses, very frequently I just don't do them. I look at them and then I don't do them. But I'm hoping to help, as your coach in this whole process, I'm hoping to help give you some accountability so that maybe you'll want to show up to that class on the days that we go live and come to me with questions or with requests for perhaps a demonstration or further explanation. And I want to do that, and we're going to do that weekly throughout the whole month of April. So that's kind of, you know, just a quick little overview of what's going to make this course a little different. The videos will be available to you right from the get-go. You can blaze through this. If you're one of those hares versus a tortoise, you can blaze through all of them, and you can come to each class with more questions as a result of your having done the work prior to our live sessions. So I'm hopeful that this is going to be kind of a fun new aspect for this class. Please sign up. I look forward to joining you. Classes will begin in April, and the deadline for sign up is April 6th, so don't miss out. I'm going to be limiting class size because I want to make sure that I have time to give everyone the personal attention that they need. So take care, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the short video.